If I can have your attention, we're ready to begin. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have some 2/3 votes tonight, so we need some counters. Kim Holstrom, Ian Kavanaugh, Ed Coleman, Chiefs Lucas, Ken Charlton, and Joe Martin. If you'd please come forward too and be sworn in. Just a reminder, town meeting members should be seated in the front section. If you are not a town meeting member, you must sit in the back section. Please have cell phones silenced or off. If you wish to address this meeting, you must do so only after being recognized by the moderator, myself. If you are reading one of the motions, please sign the first line before reading it. There is a microphone located in the front. If it is not turned on, turn it on, and please speak into the microphone. Please identify yourself by name and precinct for the record. If you are making a motion to second the article, please keep your hand raised high until we can locate you. On any article that requires a 2/3 vote, it needs to be counted. We will ask you to stand for the count. Stay standing until the count has been taken. Before we start, I want to mention that I saw Senator Moore in the hall. I don't know. He's here someplace. So, okay. Article 1, to hear the report of the Finance Committee, other town offices, and committees, or act on anything relative thereto. Finance Committee, Ms. Kavanaugh.
(18) 19, 20, and 21 were deferred to the petitioners due to their initial non-financial impact. Just a few comments on certain articles. Article 2 reduces the operating budget by $150,000. In addition to the changes already mentioned, there is an increase of $25,000 to legal negotiator and $25,000 to salt and calcium, and an increase of $10,000 to Auburn Youth and Family Services. The Finance Committee recommends approval. Article 22 requests $200,000 from free cash to address roadway municipal drainage improvements in compliance with federal stormwater mandates. Respectfully submitted, Ann Kavanaugh, Chairman, Kimberly Holstrom, Vice Chair, Edward Coleman, Mallory O'Brien, Kevin Kennedy, Trevor Sansucci, and Michael Marshall.
Thank you. Mr. Holstrom?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Before I get started, we don't ever say it enough. I want to say thank you to our boards, commissions, committees, our volunteers, our department heads, and our employees. All of your hard work, your dedication does not go unnoticed. Thank you all. From the Board of Selectmen tonight, after review of the town meeting warrant, the Board of Selectmen votes to recommend approval on all articles. I will be back at the time of Article 16 to make some comments. And it's by the Your Auburn Board of Selectmen, Kenneth A. Holstrom, Chairman, Dan Carpenter, Vice Chairman, Doreen M. Goodrich, Lionel R. Berthium, and Tristan J. LaLiberte. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holstrom. We have one more report from Mr. Kennedy.
Okay, good evening. My name is Kevin Kennedy, member of the Finance Committee. Tonight I'm speaking to you representing the newly formed Public Safety Facilities Advisory Committee. The town manager has asked me to give a very brief presentation. After our wait, it'll be very, very brief. Just to explain a little bit about what this committee is and what we've done to date. In the fall of 2018, the town, with the assistance of another committee, selected Texton Architects to perform a feasibility study and facility assessment for the existing police station, fire headquarters, and the West Auburn Fire Station. The assessment was designed to assist the Public Safety Advisory Committee in making 3 determinations for each facility. Those determinations, things that we were to look at, were the facilities in their current states satisfactory? Were the facilities able to be renovated or expanded upon on their current sites? And 3, would a new facility or a new site be necessary for those public safety facilities? The committee met with, involved a presentation from Texton Architects. A lot of information was given to us, a comprehensive review of the existing facilities and the sites on which they are located. Gave us an in-depth education into the many standards, industry standards, insurance standards that are involved in a modern-day public safety facility. Our second and third meetings involved tours. Some of us thought we knew the facilities, but after getting detailed tours from the police chief and the fire chief and their staff, we got to learn a lot about the facilities and what the needs are of our police and fire departments here in town. To date, whereas the committee, we've made determinations through our discussions of these at our meetings that the 3 current public safety buildings, that none of the current safety complexes are satisfactory. We also made a determination that the sites in the facilities as they stand are not in a condition to be renovated, nor the sites that they're located on are capable of having additional renovations or additions added to them. We also reviewed a large number of sites in town. We've made a recommendation that a single public safety complex be recommended as opposed to just 3 separate sites that we currently have. We looked at a large number of sites that initially I thought would be good sites, but after having some detailed and have the experts look at them, sites that had to be eliminated. We are currently down to 2 sites that are being considered. Still much work to be done by the committee. The purpose of my comments tonight was to let the town meetings members know that this committee exists and to get an idea of what we've accomplished to date. We definitely want public input, input of town meeting members, the residents of the community. We're holding our first public hearing on Wednesday, November 6th at 7 PM, to be in the Selectmen's Meeting Room. That meeting will be televised on Auburn Public Cable. We'll have presentations from the police chief, the fire chief, as well as the architects and the experts involved, and then welcome comments at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Article 2, to see if the town meeting will vote to amend Article 3 of the May 7th, 2019 annual town meeting as follows. Increase line item 011322-5782, salary reserve from $270,000 to $310,000. Increase line item 011512-5308, legal negotiator, from $35,000 to $60,000. Increase line item 011612-542102, miscellaneous supplies, from $770 to $1,250. Increase line item 011612-5732, certification dues, from $370 to $490. Increase line item 011621-511206, precinct officers, from $9,000 to $11,500. Increase line item 011622-542102, supplies, from $9,700 to $10,100. Increase line item 011992-5740, insurance and bonds, from $820,000 to $845,000. Decrease line item 01303-5691, Norfolk assessment, from $111,000 to $63,000. Increase line item 014252-553302, salt and calcium, from $257,000 to $282,000. Increase line item 015422-538602, contracted services, from $120,000 to $130,000. Decrease line item 015-431, salary, from $32,500 to $18,000. Increase line item 015-432-5770, relief in medical, from $60,000 to $144,000. Decrease line item 019-101-5175, group insurance, from $7,900,000 to $7,600,000. And further, to approve an amended fiscal year 2020 budget for the town of Auburn of $65,774,851, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Ms. Holstrom.
Kim Holstrom, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to amend Article 3 of the May 7th, 2019 annual town meeting as follows. Increase line item 011322-5782, salary reserve, from $270,000 to $310,000. Increase line item 01512-5308, legal negotiator, from $35,000 to $60,000. Increase line item 011612-542102, miscellaneous supplies, from $770 to $1,250. Increase line item 011-612-5732, certification dues, from $370 to $490. Increase line item 011-621-511206, precinct officers, from $9,000 to $11,500. Increase line item 011-622-542102, supplies, from $9,700 to $10,100. Increase line item 011-992-5740, insurance and bonds, from $820,000 to $845,000. Decrease line item 01303-5691, Norfolk assessment, from $111,000 to $63,000. Increase line item 014-252-553302, salt and calcium, from $257,000 to $282,000. Increase line item 015-422-538602, contracted services, from $120,000 to $130,000. Decrease line item 015-431-5111, salary, from $32,500 to $18,000. Increase line item 015-432-5770, relief and medical, from $60,000 to $144,000. Decrease line item 019-101-5175, group insurance, from $7,900,000 to $7,600,000, and further to approve an amended fiscal 2020 budget for the town of Auburn of $65,774,851.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Sir? Oh, if you use the mic, please.
An abbreviated version to do that? You just said like as the moderator read it or something like that? So she'd have to read the entire thing over again?
Yes.
Can we do that?
No.
You have to read everything line for line? Okay.
The longer ones I'm not going to say, by the way. The rest of them I can. Mr. Kazanovich?
Good evening, everyone. Ed Kazanovich, Chief Financial Officer. I'd like to show you about 6 to 7 PowerPoint slides. It's going to give you a financial, I want to describe to you our financial position going into tonight's town meeting, and as it relates to the annual town meeting that concluded on May 7th. On the revenue side, our local receipts is level funded. The final cherry sheet numbers that came out of conference committee yielded an $11,038 increase. Tax levy, we're looking at a reduction from the fall town meeting of $30,274. Debt exclusions were known at that time. That has not changed, and our available funds, primarily made up of free cash, represents an increase of $695,659 for a total revenue enhancement of $676,423.40. Looking at our warrant articles that are before you tonight, starting with Article 2, represents a total reduction of $150,000. Article 3, increase of $478,000. Article 4 asks for $15,000. Article 7 recommends $300,000. Article 8, $100,000. Article 9, $20,000. Article 11, $32,500. Article 13, $16,000. Article 15, $2,159.40. Article 17, $38,000. Article 18, $25,000. Article 19, $200,000. And the final cherry sheet charges and assessments, these are charges that we have to pay that come through the cherry sheet, $76,286, for a total ask of $676,423.40. As you can see, our projected levy, excess levy for the current fiscal year, contingent upon tonight's action, assuming all articles would pass, would leave excess levy of $5,922,332. That utilizes, the level of taxation would be 1.19% out of a possible 2.5%. That would be utilizing about 47.6% of the total 2.5 allowable levy limit. As you can see, since 2011, when we had excess levy of $833,388 to a projected balance of $5.9 million. The numbers on the left side of the graph represent the level of taxations during those years. The bottom right-hand corner represents the 10-year taxpayer savings by not taxing to 2.5 over that period of time of $34,447,000 and change. The utilization of free cash tonight, we're asking for $645,000. FY19 free cash certification came in roughly the second week of September at $13,903,276. That's $1.648 million above the prior year certification of $12.25 million. As allowed under the free cash policy, we're allowed to use 50% of that, only to be used for OPEB stabilization, CIP trust, capital, and for non-operating annual budget. That would allow us to use $824,370. We're recommending $645, which would leave a balance of about $179,000. We can only use free cash if our unassigned fund balance, and which makes up our undesignated fund balance and our stabilization account, represents 20% of the general fund operating revenue. I can tell you that for period ending 6/30/19 or fiscal 19, that percentage was 28%, so we're well above that benchmark. Therefore, in accordance with the policy, we're allowed to use 50% of that net gain of free cash. Here's our free cash balance since 2011. When we had $1.4 million, we're currently at $3.9 million. Under Article 8, we're asking for an appropriation of $100,000 towards our OPEB liability. The pie represents the audited figures as of FY18, which had a total liability of $29,974,000. Our funded portion of that liability is $3.8 million, leaving an unfunded balance of about $26 million. Our funding ratio is about 11% of that total liability. The unaudited ratio is 16.9%. These are numbers that we close out the fiscal year with. Certainly, that has not been audited yet. The unfunded liability is indexed by a number of monetary factors, and it all depends on what type of return on investment. They call it a fair cash value that we're getting on our long-term investments. I can tell you our unfunded liability before FY18 audit was about $56 million. So because the interest rate has gone up in over a period of years, there was a shift of about 3% in the fair cash value of our investments. That liability shrunk by almost $30 million. Certainly that can swing the other way if the interest rate changes, but status quo, if our liability remains the same, our funded ratio would be 16.9 million. In summary, we have total revenue adjustments tonight before you of $676,423.40. Our total recommendations, including amendments under Article 2 and supplemental appropriations through various articles, is the same, $676,423.40. Projected excess levy of $5.922 million. And once again, our utilization of Prop 2.5, which we're allowed to tax 2.50%, we're only taxing at 1.19. I can tell you at the annual town meeting, that level of taxation was 2.34. So we managed to shrink that down because our new growth came in higher, as well as other revenue sources we use to help mitigate that level of taxation. So we do have a balanced budget before you tonight. And Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, that concludes my presentation. I believe the school superintendent has a presentation as well.
Wait.
Okay, so,
Okay, questions? This being none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I got one. One opposed. It is a vote. It was a majority vote. Article 3, to see if the town meeting will vote to amend Article 15 for the McKinney rental receipts amount approved at the May 7th, 2019 annual town meeting from $2,500 to $2,978, which is the actual amount of money received in July of 2019, to fund transportation costs for homeless and/or unanticipated transportation for other students to their educational programs or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion on Article 2? Article 3, excuse me, Article 3. Oh, yes.
Okay, all set.
Mrs.
Mr. Moderator,
Corvo.
Mr. Moderator, Carolyn Vangel Corvo, Precinct 1. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 3 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Dr. Brunel.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and good evening, Board of Selectmen, Town's Administration, Finance Committee, School Committee, and Town Meeting members. I appreciate the opportunity to provide this brief update to you. On behalf of Auburn's leadership team and Auburn School Committee, I'm here to share with you a brief update since we last were together in May. I want to start off with a thank you to all of you for supporting 2 social workers that we added to our program of supports for children in place. These 2 individuals joining our psychologists, our counselors, our Auburn Youth and Family Service counselors, our board-certified behavior analysts, our consulting psychiatrists, and the trauma-informed teaching that our teachers and support staff do for students. All of this in support of students, not only their academic, but primarily their social and emotional needs. I am happy to say that we continue to make great academic progress. Hopefully you read the article in the TNG regarding MCAS. In the Auburn schools, we were one of the top 2 communities in the amount of growth that we made. So I want to share a few highlights of some non-academic things, but certainly that enhance our programs. Just earlier today, Blair Young from the American Heart Association came and gave to the Auburn Public Schools a trophy as we won a contest last year training over 1,800 individuals in hands-only CPR. We're going to continue those trainings this school year, and I hope that you'll join us. And I really want to thank our many students who offered these for them. One of the statistics shared this morning was that 70% of sudden cardiac arrest happen in the home. So it's really important for us to know hands-only CPR as well as full CPR if possible. I also want to thank the CPR AED team. Based on the work that they did and the generosity of those companies listed there, as well as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts making a grant to us, there will soon be an AED on every town and school field. This to complement every building, town and municipal, school and municipal, that had them, and that was started by the doctors Arthur and Martha Pappas many years ago. Again, we're going to be providing trainings around the use of the AED and hands-only CPR, and I hope that people will donate that less than an hour of their time to learn to utilize those. Speaking of the Pappases, we were notified this past spring that through Dr. Martha Pappas, as well as the Pappas Foundation, they are funding for every student in the Auburn Public Schools to attend a Hanover program or presentation in each of the upcoming school years, starting with this year. We actually had all of the students from Swanson Road attend Circ Mechanics there today, and they had an outstanding time. And all of the students in the schools will go this year, as well as in the upcoming two. I also want to thank the elementary PTO who funded the transportation in full for our students this year, and AA Transportation, our bus contract provider, for providing a reduced rate. Another opportunity that we have in the Auburn schools is we're becoming a part of 365Z. This is an organization, as noted on here, whose mission is really to try and help individuals, students, providing with the supports and resources so that we are continually making conscious acts of kindness. I want to thank the Tarantino Foundation for lending their financial support to this program. We're starting it at the high school, but it's going to span all of the grades. And I'd like to show you just a brief video highlighted of this from Auburn High School.
I could sit with someone when they're alone at lunch or compliment someone when they're having a bad day.
Say hi to someone that you usually don't.
Like very simple things, like asking people how their day is going and just showing that you care about people.
Compliment people.
You can include people who maybe you wouldn't on a normal day-to-day basis. Well, if someone looks like they're having a bad day and you pass them in the hall, you could like smile at them.
You could check up on your friends to see if they're doing okay.
I could help out other students when they're having trouble with something.
So, what is service to you?
The ability to do something to help someone else.
Service is to protect others.
To serve the community and to do what you have to do for your town to make it the best it can be.
Service to me is donating your time to help others.
To me, service means something you do for another person.
For community service, I volunteered at the David Broder race.
Okay, I've run a toy drive before.
I volunteer at the nursing home every Sunday.
I've never done like community service before.
I haven't done community service.
Now this is where we challenge you, AHS. Perform one conscious act of kindness before the homecoming assembly for special recognition. Submit it to one of us or post on social media with the hashtag AHSKind.
Wrapping up just a couple of more things. As I shared with you, I believe it was last year at this time, Auburn High School was named a unified champion school last year. But the goal for this year is to make sure that we're a unified district where really it is focused on respect and inclusivity with all of our students. I did want to share with you and also extend a thank you for your support through CIP and some funds from stabilization. This is a photo of the new Auburn High football field, which really I think speaks to just the tremendous talent and things that our kids have and the support that they receive from all of you. But all of the items that I have shared really are nothing unless they're for the students. So we want our students to be able to have opportunities not only academically, but artistically, athletically, musically, and we also want to make sure that our students are good citizens, that they're kind to one another and supportive. So to quickly go through the articles that we have before you this evening. The first one is to increase the McKinney-Vento. We actually spent as a district $8,533 on this. We asked for $2,500 in the spring, uncertain of what we've got, what we would get, and so this money has come in, so we're asking for an increase of $478. Medicaid reimbursement, we had asked for $185,000, actually $212 came in, so we're asking for $200,000, and we believe that moving forward, we'll be able to collect those funds. The final two are repurposing of CIPs. The first one for PAC rehab, we had some remaining funds left over from some bathroom updates, so we'd like to transfer that money for PAC Univent replacements and upgrades. And then finally, we had some money remaining from the phone system and the backdrop of Auburn High. We want to use those for stage upgrades, which will include a permanent system as opposed to this temporary one that we have for each of our town meetings. And then finally, as I have ended most all of my presentations to you, I hope that this gives you the same amount of pride that it certainly gives us in the Auburn schools. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Brunel. Any questions? John?
John Stencil, Precinct 5. Articles 3 and 4 both talk about transporting students to places. So why and where are we doing this?
So McKinney-Vento is the mechanism through which students who become homeless, so if a child was living in Auburn and now is, say, could be placed in a hotel in Worcester, we would need to share the cost with Worcester to bring that child back to Auburn. Conversely, if the child lived in another community and came, and this doesn't happen as often, and came to reside in Auburn as a homeless designation by the state, we'd have to pay half the cost to return that child to their, what's considered their home district. The second one, for the Medicaid reimbursement, so one of the things that we could use this money for is for special education transportation. We have a limited number of students whose needs are such that we can't appropriately educate them in the Auburn Public Schools, so they would have a placement outside of the district. So some of these funds could be used to support that transportation cost.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Wait a second, Doctor.
Doug Nelson, Precinct 2. Is this the articles, is this for this year only, or is this an ongoing program? Because at some point I remember reading in the paper where there's some busing funding, and once the town gets on that program, it continues forever. And I was just curious if this is that program or if this is something different. Thank you.
So I'm uncertain exactly what you're referring to, Mr. Nelson, but what I can say is the McKinney-Vento, that is money that comes back to the town every year in reimbursement. It's actually given right by the state. They don't fully fund it, they only partially fund that. The district had spent over $8,500 and the state is giving us back $2,978. You may be referring to regional transportation, that they may get some, but as a non-regional district, we're not entitled to that.
Any other questions? Not seeing then? We ready for the vote? First of all those opposed, raise their hand. I don't see anybody opposed. All those in favor? It is a unanimous vote. Article 4. To see if the town meeting will vote to amend Article 13 for the Medicaid reimbursement amount approved for fiscal year 2020 at the May 7th, 2019 annual town meeting from $185,000 to $200,000 to fund supplies in medical, therapeutic, and educational services for significantly disabled special needs students, as well as for tuition and transportation to and from outside placements or within the district for special needs students, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes, sir.
Tom Kais, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 4 as printed in the October 15th, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Is there any discussion? Not seeing that? Not seeing anybody's hand up? All those opposed, please raise your hand. All those in favor? It's unanimous vote. Article 5 is a 2/3 vote. To see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 3 of the May 5th, 2015 annual town meeting. Packagug Building Rehab, account number 302-016-581-635 as follows. Authorize the remaining $4,647.30 in this account to be combined with other CIP funds for Packagug Building Rehab towards the installation of univents at the school, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Mr. Moderator, Greg Bowling, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 5 as printed in the October 15th, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second? There is a second. This is a 2/3 vote. Are we ready? Any questions? Not seeing any then? All those opposed, please raise your hand. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is a vote, unanimous. Article 6 is also 2/3. To see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 2nd, 2017 annual town meeting, Auburn High School Building Rehab, account 302-018-581-842 as follows. Authorize the remaining $11,360.88 in this account to be used to complete necessary stage upgrades at Auburn High School, or act on anything relative thereto. Mrs. Ethia.
Ellen Ethia, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 6 as printed in the October 15th, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? All those opposed, please raise your hand. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It was unanimous vote. That was a 2/3 vote, as I announced earlier. Article 7. To see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $300,000 from free cash to the town stabilization fund, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, Dan Diamond, Precinct 5. I move that town meeting vote to appropriate the sum of $300,000 from free cash to the town stabilization fund.
Is there a second? There is a second. This is just a majority. Anybody have a question on that? Yes, sir. Come to the mic, please.
Yeah, my name's Russell Talisman. I'm in Precinct 2. This is my first town meeting. I just got elected as a representative, and I'm very vague on this question. And what will these funds be used for?
Mr. Kazanovich.
So there is a trust that these monies go into. At the beginning of this fiscal year, we had $3.2 million in the stabilization account. We typically use it for non-operational type expenditures, large capital purchases. For instance, we used $300,000 this year for the presentation you saw by the school superintendent as a down payment for the field turf replacement at the high school. We've also used it in the past for initial payment for a fire truck. We've used it in the past for land acquisition when we bought land from Masonic Home for the Auburn Middle School. So it's typically used for large capital purchases.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, one opposed. All those in favor? It is a vote. Article 8, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $100,000 from free cash to the town OPED, other post-employment benefits liability trust fund, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Mr. Moderator, Dan Diamond, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate the sum of $100,000 from free cash to the town OPEB, other post-employment benefits liability trust fund.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Again, it's a majority vote. All those opposed? All those in favor? It is a unanimous vote. Article 9, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $20,000 from free cash for electronic payroll checks or advices, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Dan Diamond again, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 9 as printed in the October 15th, 2009 special town meeting warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Mr. Dufour.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tom Dufour, Precinct 5. I'm just curious, how do they get their advices now that we have to spend 20 grand to do it?
Departments actually come to town hall and pick up the advices, which is time consuming. It's not cost effective. A lot of time is being spent writing up and taking those back. But more importantly, this provides an electronic gateway for our employees to access their own personal information, payroll information that they could dump on their own and give to a banking institution if they're going for loans. And so it saves us some admin time making those requests that they typically have to make to our office now.
Go ahead, Mr.
So
Dufour.
just as a quick follow, so this is like a one-time cost setting up the system and it's,
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanovich. Anybody else with a question? Not seeing any then? This is a majority. All those opposed, please raise your hand. All those in favor? It is a vote, unanimous. Article 10 is a 2/3. To see if the town meeting will vote to rescind unused borrowing authorizations previously voted by the town. Auburn Middle School project, $20,185,375. MSBA school roof projects, Auburn Middle School and Bryn Mawr, $3,024,153, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Tom Pomfret, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 10 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any then? Where? Oh, go ahead, John.
John Stencil, Precinct 5. The way I'm reading this, we're gonna save $23 million.
When town meeting was asked to vote and authorize the issuance of debt for the New Auburn Middle School, we had to issue the full value of that project. It's called $45 million. The state participated in roughly 56% of that cost. That represents 56%. In order for us to go out and borrow the money, we have to get an authorization for the full value, even though we know the state is going to contribute X amount towards that project. That holds true for both of these items.
Thank you. Is there a question up in the back? No? Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, Russell Talisman, Precinct 2. Now, you were just saying all this is all dependent on if the state gives us the money. Is there any guarantees that the state can't renege and the town will be liable for that whole bill?
That's why we had to get an authorization for the full value. Back years ago, when the state was experiencing some financial hardship, they did not make, and before the distribution was made to the cherry sheet, there were times when those payments were actually delayed. The state is in good financial standing. We did receive every penny. These projects have been audited. We received our full value. These balances are still on the books, even though we didn't borrow the money. We really need to rescind it and clean it up. So any bond prospectors who are buying our bonds now will know that we're not going to incur debt on these values still on the books.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Not seeing any? This is a 2/3 vote. So all those opposed, please stand. I don't see anybody. All those in favor, raise their hand. It is a vote. Article 11, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $32,500 from Packagug Golf Course Enterprise retained earnings for the purchase of a tractor to be used at the Packagug Golf Course and by the Parks Department, or act on anything relative thereto. Yes.
James Callahan, Arrowhead Ave. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 11 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Any questions, sir?
Sorry. Now, I understand that Russell Talisman, Precinct 2. I understand that Packagug Golf Course is, part of the town. This track, the whole thing, we're spending a lot of money. I don't understand why the golf course can't afford their own tractor. To be used by the town, I'm vague how a community tractor is going to work and why the golf course can't buy their own tractor.
Mr. Coyle.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, just a clarification. So the $32,500 is coming out of retained earnings, which is essentially the savings account for the Packagug Golf Course, so it's not tax dollars. And then the other portion of the cost of the tractor is coming out of our revolving account, again, which is not tax dollars. So it would not consist of any tax monies to fund this tractor.
All right, thank you. I was unaware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Mr. Coyle, we have another one.
Just curious, is this going to be housed at the golf course, or is this going to be somewhere else in town and trailered, or, I don't know if they have a barn or garage there for this, and also a maintenance plan?
Mr. Coyle?
We anticipate being housed at the golf course. We do have a barn located there, and the maintenance would be performed by our own staff.
Thank you. Anybody else with a question? Not seeing anybody's hand up? All those opposed, please raise your hand. All those in favor? Unanimous vote. Article 12, to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 1st, 2018 town meeting. Fire service truck, account 062202-581912 as follows. Authorize the amount of $9,236 to be used for the purpose of equipping fire engine number 1 with miscellaneous equipment to place it in service as a frontline engine or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, William Byland, Precinct 2. Article 12, I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 12 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
This is a 2/3 vote. Are there any questions? Oh, seconds, thank you. Any questions? Not seeing any then? All those in favor, all those opposed, excuse me, raise your hand. All those in favor? It's unanimous vote. Article 13, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $16,000 from available funds from dog license fees, ORG 261018, for the purpose of floor repairs and fencing at the Kathleen Sabrina Animal Compound or act on anything relative thereto. Yes.
Bobby Baker, Precinct 3. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 13 as printed in the October 15th, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any then? All those in favor? All those opposed, raise their hands. All those in favor? It is a vote. Article 14, to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose $2,196.97 as a balance from $9,000 appropriation approved under Article 28 of the May 1st, 2018 annual town meeting. Account 02292-581944. The purchase of monitoring cameras at the kennels for the purpose of floor repairs at the Kathleen Sabrina Animal Compound or act on anything relative thereto. Mr. Baker.
Yes, I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 14 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Russell Talisman again, Precinct 2. On this question where it says monitoring cameras, is this strictly to monitor the contractors who's doing the floor repair as it's written, or is this going to be so they can monitor the animals that's in the kennel?
Ms. Coyle?
Good evening. So for this article, the money is being used from an account that we had for cameras that we purchased for the kennel. The balance from the kennel, from the purchase of these cameras, is this money. So we were able to get cameras at the kennel, which were very much needed, and there was some money left over that we'd like to put towards the floor repairs.
Thank you. Anybody else with a question? Not seeing then? Seeing anybody's hand up? All those opposed, please raise your hand. All those in favor? It is unanimous vote. Article 15, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $2,159.40 from the dog fines, account 262902-4840 for miscellaneous building repairs at the Kathleen Sabrina Animal Compound, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Yes, Kathy Stone, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate Article 15 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Yes, sir, come to the mic.
Dennis Natoli, Precinct 1. Just a quick question. I have a lot of repairs to the facility. Are they done? Is it repaired? Or do you need more money?
Ms. Coyle?
So thank you. This article is for miscellaneous repairs. We have had, over the past several years, many repairs done to the building. We're happy to say that many of the repairs have improved the conditions very well down there. Recently, we had some windows that were put into the kennel, and the windows are wonderful. They're better at keeping the heat or the cool air in. However, when the windows went in, we noticed that there were some roof issues. So this is to address water coming into the kennel. So we are hoping that this is going to get us squared away.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question? Not seeing any hands up? All those opposed, please raise your hands. All those in favor? It is a unanimous vote. Article 16, to see if the town meeting will vote to amend to see if the town meeting will vote to amend the Town of Auburn general bylaws by inserting the following bylaw, 12.18 of Chapter 12, Department of Developmental and Inspectional Services, a bylaw reducing plastic bag pollution as follows, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Deb Valentine, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 16 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any, Mr. Holstrom?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First off, I'd like to thank our town manager, Julie Jacobson, and also Tristan Lalibde, selectman, for helping put this timeline together in these comments. The Board of Selectmen is sponsoring Article number 16, a proposed plastic bag reduction bylaw. I want to provide town meeting members with a brief history and an overview of this article. In August of 2017, Selectman Tristan Lalibde presented a proposal for a plastic bag ban in Auburn to the Board of Selectmen. The board unanimously voted to authorize Selectman Lalibde to conduct research on the potential benefits and impacts on a ban on single-use plastic bags and bring the results back to the board for discussion. Mr. Lalibde then spent the next several months reaching out to members of the business community, neighboring communities, and researching the reasoning for and impacts of plastic bag bans. On February 26, 2018, Mr. Lalibde returned to the board with information on the harmful effects of plastic bags on the environment, as well as the effects of plastic bag bans on the communities that implement them. Mr. Lalibde also presented a draft bylaw to the board. At that time, around 60 communities in the Commonwealth had already adopted similar bylaws. The board voted to schedule a public hearing on the proposed plastic bag ban for March 19, 2018 to seek input from the public. The board opened the public hearing on March 19th and kept it open until September 10th, 2018, when the board reconvened the public hearing. During that 6-month period, the board encouraged the public to attend the hearing or submit written comments. During this time, the Solid Waste Committee voted to support a plastic bag reduction bylaw. After the close of the hearing on September 10th, in which the board received comments both in favor and in opposition to the plastic bag ban bylaw, the board expressed a belief that we had not received enough input from residents to move forward with the bylaw at that time. So the board voted to send a ballot question to the voters of this community at the May 2019 town election to gauge whether there was a desire to develop a plastic bag reduction bylaw. The non-binding referendum question that was on the May 21, 2019 town election ballot read as follows. In order to promote the reduction of thin film, single-use plastic bags in the town of Auburn waste stream, should the town of Auburn research and develop a general bylaw that restricts the use of thin film, single-use plastic bags by retail establishments within the town, with the potential of some exclusions such as meat, fish, produce, and/or dry cleaning bags. Annual town election voters approved the question by a vote of 620 to 381, or 62% to 38%, in favor of the town developing a plastic bag reduction bylaw. At its June 10, 2019 meeting, the board voted to send the draft plastic bag bylaw prepared by Selectman LaLiberty to the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee and Solid Waste Advisory Committee for review, comments, and suggestions. And over the course of the next 3 months, the Solid Waste Committee, Zoning Bylaw Review Committee, and the Board of Health, the enforcement authority identified in the proposed bylaw, reviewed the draft bylaw and made recommendations for revisions. Town administration submitted the revised draft bylaw, which incorporated those revisions recommended by these 3 committees and boards to the Board of Selectmen on September 9th. The board reviewed and discussed the revised draft bylaw and voted on September 23rd to recommend approval of the draft bylaw under Article 16 on the fall town meeting warrant, which we have in front of us tonight. So in summary, this has been a 2-year public process that has included a public hearing that was opened in March of 2018 and closed on September 10th, 2018, a non-binding referendum question on the May 21st, 2019 local town election ballot, an overwhelming vote of support, 62% to 38% from the voters of this community to develop a plastic bag reduction bylaw, review and input from our 4 boards and committees, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Health, the Solid Waste Committee, and the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee. The resulting proposed bylaw under Article 16 of this fall town meeting warrant represents 2 years of work on this issue. As of early October, 122 communities, up from 60 when this process began, have drafted bylaws restricting the distribution of the plastic bags. The Board of Selectmen support Article 16. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holstrom. Are there any questions? That Mr. Frost back there, I can't.
Ken Frost, Precinct 4. My question is, what is the environmental impact severity in Auburn on the plastic bags, use of plastic bags?
Ms. Coyle?
So, part of the reason for the ban is that if you look around, everywhere you see them, plastic bags. It's a huge litter concern. They're everywhere. They're in the waterways, they're in trees, they're in pretty much every area of town when you're driving around. In all of the townwide cleanups, it's one of the biggest things that we pull out of the environment. This ban is meant to reduce the plastic bags in town, and also encourage people to use their own bags, to reuse bags, a more environmentally friendly bag. The other part, there's a huge impact to our solid waste and recycling program. Most people, when they have a bag, these bags actually can be recycled, but there's a lot of miscommunication about where they can put them. So if you look on many plastic bags, you'll actually see often a number and a recycling symbol on it, which tells people, geez, I should really recycle this bag. So with good intentions, people put them into the recycling bin. Unfortunately, that is the worst place that you can actually put them. So when they go into the recycling bin, they cause what we call contamination of the recycling material, and that recycling material gets brought to the recycling facility. It gets stuck into the processing equipment. It slows down the process and increases the cost for processing recycling because now the loads are contaminated. So it's a huge negative in our recycling bins, and that is part of the environmental impact. Additionally, the bags take a long time to break down, and when they do break down, they pretty much disintegrate into the soil. They disintegrate into the waterways. And you may have seen like microplastics that end up in the environment. It's not good for us. So there's many environmental impacts, but there's also cost to it as well.
Thank you. Well, yes, go ahead.
Will this have a reduction in our solid waste costs that we have to pay? By taking these bags out of circulation and out of the trash?
Ms. Coyle?
So for the, we are currently in a solid waste contract, and while we are not paying extra for any recycling processing, any contamination, it is something that is a very real cost that's happening around the state. So we are hoping that by putting this ban in place, that is something that it raises awareness. It cuts down on the possible environmental impacts and the cost for the solid waste users.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Largess, is it? Yep.
Danny Largess, Precinct 4. Last month, there was a mailer that went out, and I believe every single one of you has received it. And there was a meeting up at Town Hall in the Selectman's office, and it answered every single question under the sun that you could come up with. And I seen 5 town meeting members there. We are elected officials. Do our jobs, research these questions if we're going to vote on them. That's all I'm asking. We barely had a quorum tonight. We need to get off the pot and do our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Largess. Anybody else have a question? Mr. Bergeron?
Norm Bergeron, Precinct 1. It just seems to me, I'm in favor of the plastic bag ban, but I just see so many prohibitions to subsection A. It seems like your prescription medications, produce, counting meats, poultry, fish, bread, these are all items that come in plastic bags. But you're allowing them, right? You're not disbanding that, stopping that at that point, right?
So you are correct. There are exceptions in the ban. There are listed approximately about 10 exceptions. There has to be a starting point at some point. For the ban to go into place, we wanted to be mindful that there are certain items that you get in a plastic bag that you would continue to get in a plastic bag. It is something that there are, for each one of these exceptions, there are items there that could arguably be expected to come in the plastic bag. So they are exceptions to the rule.
So who's going to enforce this?
So the Board of Health is the authority that's been identified by the Board of Selectmen to enforce this bylaw.
So the grocery stores, according to this, can still use it for frozen food items, meat, poultry,
That's correct, sir.
such and such?
Thank you.
We feel that if the ban is voted through, obviously it raises awareness that the town now has a plastic bag ban. And we're hoping that it's going to reduce the amount of plastic. And also, you may or may realize that we have sent out, over the past year and a half, we've sent out mailings bringing people's attentions to plastic bags and making sure that if you can reuse a bag, that's ultimately what we'd love you to do. But if you can bring them back to the grocery stores, all of the grocery stores in town and right outside of town, they all have a container. I think it's usually where you recycle your bottles. You can bring back those plastic bags, and they take them, they actually recycle them, and they make them into like a plastic composite. I don't know all the names of them, but like Trex decking or like a plastic decking material. So those are really important programs, and we are trying to raise awareness about that, something that we feel it's important.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Dennis Tully, Precinct 1. You collected data for 2 years. Do you have any data that tells us how much plastic you picked up in Auburn, like how many tons came out of Eddie Pond or anything like that? It seems that this is basically a kind of like a feel-good type of bylaw we're trying to propose, that it doesn't really have an effect. If we're pulling out lots of trash, plastics through Eddie Pond, I'd be for actually, supporting maybe fines for littering, but this type of bylaw will have an effect. If stores can charge, in the bylaw, they can charge fees for the paper bags, and there's no limit on it. I think that will have an effect on the elderly as well as low income. And I guess I'm old enough to remember that we had to use plastic to save the environment and from the paper bags. Now it seems we're reversing this and going back. But is there any data that supports how much trash of plastic is coming out of Auburn and how this is going to reduce it? Because I see potential more for being a burden on the town rather than really help. It's just kind of a feel-good type of bylaw. So do you have anything like that?
Well, Ms. Coyle, maybe Mr. Liberty would like to say something? Thank you.
All right, so I'll try to address each part of that question. You can tell me out if I leave anything out. So I don't have any specifics on how much trash has been collected in Auburn with regards to plastic bags. I can tell you that I see them out there every time I go jogging, which was one of the reasons that I wanted to look into this originally. You can see them floating in the trees or cotton fences all around. But part of the environmental impacts that's a problem with this is the ones that you don't see. Mrs. Coyle mentioned the microplastics, and the problem with those is that they slowly start to absorb toxins that can later leak back into the soil or into an animal that consumes them or into waterways. So if any data is available that you might be looking for, I would turn that back to Mrs. Coyle, because she might have something on how many plastic bags we're seeing in recycling bins, because that's another issue that we're having with them. It's come before the board several times where we're seeing people throw them in the recycling bin thinking that they're doing the right thing, and then they end up, clogging machines down the line. So we're trying to curb that, but that's an ongoing process. You also mentioned when paper was the alternative, or plastic rather, was the alternative to paper to save the environment, to save the trees. At the time, it was thought, that it would cut down on that. Most of the bylaws require that the paper that's being used be about 40% recycled. So we have that. Additionally, it's just at the time they didn't realize how microplastics were going to impact everything around them. So that's becoming the real issue, the realization of the harmful effects of using or depending on plastic. So there is some argument that the CO2 reduction from processing, so when you make a plastic bag, they're made from fossil fuels. So the impact of using trees to make paper versus also burning fossil fuels to make oil, or burning fossil fuels to make the bags, it's a trade-off that really doesn't actually have the environmental protections that most people would think it does. And that's all I have on that. So I turn it back to Mrs. Coyle for any answer she might have to data on plastic and the recycling.
So since I've been here, I have participated in the townwide cleanups. So there's a joint effort with the town and the Chamber of Commerce, and every 2 years, everybody joins forces to do townwide cleanups. Those are typically, a lot of volunteers come together, and we have people going out to pick up trash and litter around the town. It's not something that we typically measure. We don't measure how many plastic bags we pulled out of the environment, but I can tell you the stuff that we do pull out of the environment is disturbing. So we have literally bags that come back that are filled with recyclables, with trash, and I know that because we're typically separating them as the bags come back to the fire station. I guess I would say is it is something that it is a feel-good bylaw in the fact that if we can make a difference by reducing the amount of plastic in litter in the environment and cut down on the cost of contamination in our recycling, I think that is a win-win for the town. And I think that over the past couple of years, we have been able to have somebody we started it through a grant program, somebody to be able to go out and educate people on recycling and solid waste, and we are continuing that effort. We're hoping that by having somebody out at the curb, being able to help people understand what can be recycled and what cannot, that's also going to add to our success with the program. The plastic bags in recycling bins, I can tell you, is the #1 contaminant across the state.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Actually, so I didn't finish answering. I just remembered.
Go ahead, Tristan.
I'm sorry about that. You had also asked about impacts to businesses. I just wanted to address that really quickly. So the fee or the allowance for businesses to charge a fee is in case that they see any economic impact from switching over from plastic to paper, because when you first do it, most people aren't going to be unaware. They'll come in and you'll have a higher dependence on paper. But so I worked at Shaw's for years. I've talked to the manager about it there and several other businesses, and they actually, one of the reasons that Shaw's pushes you to buy their reusable bags that they sell there is they'll save money when they don't have to buy bags when people are coming in. So we're actually seeing a lot of grocery stores start to do is support this so that people will bring their own bags, so it in the long term does save them money on purchasing bags. The fees, when I was looking at the towns that have already implemented them, were really just for paper and the upfront costs of that, and then after that subsided and people started to buy reusable bags, that wasn't as much of a factor. The only other thing that I wanted to comment on is the exceptions piece, and what we're not banning. And the reason that plastic bags that you get when you leave the store are here, and the plastic bags that you would use for produce and such aren't. Those bags, some of them are biodegradable, but it's really, we already have alternatives that we know are more environmentally friendly for those plastic bags that you leave with. There aren't as many alternatives available right now for regular produce bags and things like that, besides the biodegradable ones. So that's why you wouldn't see those included. So I hope that answers everything that you had asked.
I mean, I applaud your effort on doing this, but everything I looked at as far as data saying the effect on, it's negligible, and there's more of an effect on the cost of going through this than there is on the environment. And I was hoping you'd have some actual physical data, something, numbers. But just this, and I know on my street, and I have, on South Street, and I have quite a large frontage, I don't see too much plastic. I see McDonald's cups, I see beer bottles, I see cans. I don't see someone driving by and throwing their groceries out the window, but they'll throw paper bags. I see that type of litter much more than I see plastic bags. I mean, I clean up my area, and I have almost 400 feet of wooded area along the road, and I very rarely see a plastic bag, but I find all kinds of litter other than this. And again, I don't see this has an impact, but a more inconvenience. I would applaud you, but I think if you had education more on how to dispose of plastic bags, that's probably more beneficial than an outright ban of plastic bags. That's just my opinion, and thank you. And you're doing a good job.
Thank you. We still have some more people who wish to speak here. Mr. Baker?
Yes, please. Move the question, Mr. Moderator.
Question is a motion to move the question. It's been seconded. It's non-debatable. All those opposed, please raise your hand.
Right.
To move in the question, yeah. All those in favor? It passes. The question is moved. We ready for the vote? Okay. This is just a majority too. All those in favor? Excuse me, all those opposed, please raise your hand. Yeah, keep them up there. We are counting. They go up and down, we can't see how many there are. No. Okay. This is just a majority, by the way. All those this is just a majority. No, I'm sure, but I just wanted to make sure of that. All those in favor, please raise their hand. It is a vote. Bill, it passes. It's a simple majority, that's all. Now we're on page 7. Page 7. Article 17, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $38,000 from sewer enterprise retained earnings for engineering associated with replacement of a sewer line under the bridge on Bancroft Street, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Deb Kozik, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 17 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? All those opposed, please raise your hand. All those in favor? It passes. Number 18, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $25,000 from free cash for the installation of a remote receiver to cover the junction of Route 12 and 20 to the Oxford line, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Carla Morano, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 18 as printed in the October 15th, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Is there any questions? John?
John Stencil, Precinct 5. Could I have the simple explanation for this one, please?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I'm Todd Lemon, Lieutenant of the Auburn Police. So this particular article is to address deficiencies in our communication system. We've been battling for years the area of 12 and 20 in Auburn, having good, clear ability to communicate over our primary police communications. The geographical makeup of Auburn with the hills and the Granger Cliffs and different places we have remote repeaters and voters throughout the town. So we've consulted with our radio experts that are much smarter than I am with regards to that have analyzed it. Now we're working with the Auburn Water District, Kenny Smith, and the Water District is erecting 2 brand new water tanks up on Prospect Street, if any of you have been up there. And the Water District actually paid for the antenna mounts at no cost to the town. And this cost, working with Bill Coyle and his members from DPW, will help do the installation, working with the radio company that we hope to contract, Worcester Radio, to improve our communications, because sometimes we absolutely have none at 12 and 20 at the Oxford line. And bearing in mind that we're going to be having over 300 units being developed up off of Tinker Hill Road, that's certainly going to be a concern for officer safety.
Thank you, officer. Any other questions? With some hands up. Yes, sir.
Tom Guys, Precinct 4. Just kind of a point of order. With the gentleman who left, do we still have quorum to actually continue these votes?
I think this quorum is still here, to be honest with you. Okay? Thank you. Anybody else with a question? Yes, sir.
Yes, I just have one question. Russell Talisman, Precinct 2. On this whole radio thing for $25,000 coming out of free cash, we're taking a lot of money out of free cash. So am I under the impression that when you're on the Oxford 1220 line, you cannot communicate with the station or anything? You have radio silence? Or I really don't understand the need for this.
So I'm going to answer this again. I'm not a radio expert, but I know it just enough to be dangerous. So the difficulty with radio communications is radio waves basically travel in straight lines. And when they run into geographical obstacles, we have poor or failed communications. And that particular area is problematic because of the cliffs for our residents that are down in West Auburn and up off of Hill Street and up in that area in Tinker Hill Road. So when we are down there, typically we have difficulties. Those 2 water tanks they're erecting up there are going to have a voter, which basically picks where the strongest signal is, and those water tanks and antennas will point directly down onto the 1220 area to provide better communications and coverage for our emergency personnel.
Is this something new or something that's always been?
This is a new location, so it's always been a deficiency in that area of town, and because the water department is putting up the new water tanks, they're putting up, we've had experts, one of the town meeting members has actually helped out as well as Worcester Radio, who is our primary source for our communications equipment, have analyzed and looked at it, and they tell us that will address our deficiencies in that area of town. Well,
Any other questions? Not seeing any? This is a majority. All those opposed, please raise your hands. All those in favor? It passes. Article 19, to see if the town meeting will vote to amend Section 13, tiny homes of the zoning bylaws by adding Section 13.5.6.1 and Section 13.5.6.2 to the Appendix Q of the International Residential Code as follows. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, Rocco Morano, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 19 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. There is a second. Are there any questions? We have a question back there? Ms. Kozak, is that?
Deb Kozik, Precinct 4. I just have a question just about the Appendix Q where it says it has not been adopted by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but we would be adopting it here. I just want to be sure if I'm reading that clearly.
Mr. Moderator, Adam
By the
Menard.
planning board. Is somebody from the planning board here? Oh. Mr. Menard?
I'm the town, Adam Menard, the town planner. Basically, the state decided not to adopt the 2018 building code, which was referenced in the tiny home bylaw the town meeting approved this past May. It was recommended by town council that the town adopt the Appendix Q, so the relief from the building code for the tiny homes will be in our bylaws. So again, the town won't be adopting the 2018 building code at all. They'll be looking to adopt the 2021 building code in 2021, hopefully. So, like I said, it was recommended by council, town council, that we adopt this Appendix Q so tiny homes can be built.
Anybody else have a question? John?
John Stencil, Precinct 5. If we do not vote in favor of this article, will that kill tiny homes forever? Because I think this is going to be a reoccurring nightmare.
If the town does not adopt Appendix Q, tiny homes would still be able to be built, but they would have to meet the existing building code. Appendix Q gives them leniency to the existing building code, such as Appendix Q gives leniency to the existing building code. So you could build a tiny home without adopting Appendix Q, but it would be very difficult and costly.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Danny Largis, Precinct 4. In the future, I don't want anybody to come back and say we did not have a quorum on these votes. We're down 2 people. Are we safe? So 6 months from now, somebody can't say, those votes didn't count because you didn't have a quorum. Are we good?
We're good. People have left.
I understand that, then why do we need a quorum to start the meeting?
People have come back too. The same people have come back. I mean, I don't know if I've seen everybody, but to me, it looks like the quorum is still here.
I just hope it doesn't come back to bite us.
It won't. Anybody else on Article 19? I don't see anybody's hand up. This is a 2/3 vote. All those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, we're gonna have to count, so we better stand up, please. Those that are opposed to this, please stand up. And the counters, please count them. Wait a minute, wait a minute. You got it? Okay? Oh. Huh? Okay, please sit down, thank you. Now, all those people in favor of it, please stand up, the ones that are in favor of it. Please count. Thank you, you can sit down.
56 yeses. The 18 against, and 56 for. So I'd say, yeah, that passes. 56 to 18. 56 to 18.
Article 19 passes 56 to 18. Questions? Nope. Go to page 11. Page 11. Excuse me. We have to have a two-thirds vote of the people that are voting. There are people who choose not to vote that didn't get up. Article 20, to see if the town meeting will vote to amend section 4.5 of the zoning bylaw, Regional Mall Overlay District, RM District, by amending section 4.5.3.1, section 4.5.5 in the table of uses, section 3.1, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion on Article 20?
Mr. Moderator, Tom Healy, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 20 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Does anybody have a question on Article 20? This is also a two-thirds. Oh, yes, Ms. Holstrom.
Is the planning board recommending this article?
What? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, the planning board voted to recommend adoption of this bylaw.
Any other questions? Mr. Bergeron? Anybody else? Mr. Stencil? John?
John Stencil, Precinct 5. There has to be a reason for this. What's the reason for this article?
Adam Nara, Town Planner. This is kind of a proactive amendment to make sure the mall remains a viable asset. It allows a couple of different uses. One of them including the medical center and offices, which Reliance currently existing. This change will allow that to be an actual official use per the bylaw. Will also allow trade, professional, or other school connected as a gainful business. This would be a new allowed use. There are no specific plans that I know of that has come before the planning board to have any changes for the mall. This is just a proactive step to make sure that the mall does remain viable and fully leased out.
Any other questions? Article 20 is a two-thirds. Oh, who did I miss? Yes, Mr. Proudy.
Ron Proudy, Precinct 1. I'm a little torn, I guess, when we pass a bylaw that would control bags that the mall and the mall stores use, and they're not here to speak in favor of it. But I'm more concerned now when you have an article that the planner says would keep the mall viable, and you don't have them here telling us that it will keep them viable. I certainly would hate if 6 months from now, the mall says, well, too many of our little stores are gone out of business. They were confused by the bag bylaw, but we weren't concerned enough to come here to vote on something that makes the mall viable. This is not the way the mall came into this town 40 years ago. They had representatives going out the sides of the old high school where the town meeting was then held. And they argued over 2 locations, and we probably put it in the bad location or the worst location of the 2. But here, there's nobody here from the mall saying, you're gonna make us viable. I know how much we depend on the mall, but I don't think that we should throw in the towel and say, whatever you want and whatever may make you viable in the future, we will pass for you in hopes that we keep you here. I just hope we remember this 6 months from now or 6 years from now when the mall says, we're going out, we're going elsewhere.
Thank you. Sir?
Greg Willing, Precinct 4. For those of you who aren't aware, I'm also chairman of the Master Plan Committee. And although I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee here, through my time working on the committee, I've come to realize that the mall is one of our biggest taxpayers and is also in one of the shakiest industries that we have in town. If you go in, look at, for example, the economic development plan that was put together through that process, you'll see that Auburn skews very heavily in its employment towards retail and very heavily in its tax base towards retail use. If you read the news and you hear, is our Sears closing yet? Has our Sears closed yet? How about now, is the Sears closed yet? If you look at that site and you look at the potential of a second anchor store going out of business at that mall, you have the very real prospect of that sitting vacant for years and years and years, unless the mall is given the opportunity or through proper zoning, the ability to explore some other options for use of their property for redevelopment purposes. So I know this bylaw has gone through a comprehensive review process. The medical center was, I think, an innovative use of that existing anchor store space. It was something that had to be pushed through as a special exception to the zoning because it was not allowed per the zoning bylaws. But I think we'll all agree that it's much better to have Reliant bring all of their professional jobs and employment in a consolidated location at the mall site than it would be to have a vacant anchor store there. So all this bylaw is doing is making that formal possibility, as well as some other options such as trade schools or other development. It does not go quite as far as I personally would like to see it go, but I think it's a really good start. So I'd like you to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't see anything up. This also was a 2/3 vote. It's the last one of the evening. All those opposed, please stand up. All those in favor? It passes. Unanimous. Turn to page 22. Article 21, to see if the town meeting will vote to grant National Grid temporary and/or permanent easements across, over, and under town property on Jerome Ave for the purpose of constructing, reconstructing, repairing, maintaining, operating, and patrolling a transmission line of high and low voltage consisting of at least 3 poles with associated wires and cables, and to further authorize the Board of Selectmen and Town Manager to execute any and all documents necessary for the conveyance of such easements to National Grid in accordance with law, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion, Mr. Martin?
Joe Martin, Precinct 2. I move that town meeting vote to approve Article 21 as printed in the October 15, 2019 special town meeting warrants.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? I'm not seeing any then. All those opposed? All those in favor? It's a unanimous vote. Article 22, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $200,000 from free cash for roadway, municipal drainage improvements in compliance with the EPA, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, general permit for storm water drainage discharges, and from small municipal separate storm sewer systems, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Jeff Labonte, Precinct 1. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 22 as printed in the October 15th, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any though. All those in favor? All those opposed? Oh, hold it. Yeah, okay. Nobody's opposed, so it's unanimous. I'd like a motion now to dissolve. Second. All those in favor? Thank you very much for coming and staying.